This week's Parsha Devarim starts the last book of the Torah where Moshe reviews what happened to Israel over the last 40 years. He started his monologue very interestingly, first recapping leaving Mount Sinai. Hashem Elokeinu diber eleinu bechorev lemor. God spoke to us in Chorev saying, Rav lachem shevet bahar hazeh. You have spent enough time at this mountain. Remember that Mount Sinai was Israel's destination after leaving Egypt. Once having reached it, they encamped there for over a year, with many eventful things occurring to them. If Israel was in Chorev for so long with God's consent and approval, why does Moshe imply that God was suddenly kicking them out or rushing them to leave from there? Kli Yakar remarks that Israel's needing to be rushed from Chorev was actually the first hint that many of the people hated the land. They preferred to stay at the mountain where it all started, rather than journey towards the land to the place uniquely suited for performing and fulfilling the mitzvot. Rav Yitzchak Shmuel Reggio states that God wasn't kicking or rushing anyone out. He was merely stating a fact. God had planned for Israel to remain at Mount Sinai in order to receive the Torah and build the Mishkan. However, due to the sin of the golden calf, they stayed there for a lot longer than originally planned. In order to secure forgiveness for Israel from God for the sin, Moshe went up the mountain again for an additional unplanned 40 days. This in turn caused a delay in all of God's plans for what was to be done at Mount Sinai and caused Israel to leave much later. As Malbim points out, God had wanted Israel to go into the land soon after receiving the Torah. So at the first moment that Israel would be truly ready to move on, they would. While these might have been facts, most commentators do believe that the verse intimates that God was rushing Israel out from Mount Sinai. Sifri comments that many good things happened or occurred to Israel at Mount Sinai. First of all, Israel received the Torah. They created a judicial system that would be as fair as possible to both the people and the judges. They built the Mishkan, a house for God to manifest His presence among the people. Moshe appointed 70 elders to help him. While at first glance this might not have looked too positive, it helped to reduce the unbearable load on Moshe. The Sifri continues and says, however, to just stay at the mountain would not have been a good thing, possibly even bordering on evil. Why so? Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch explains that after all the good that had happened at Mount Sinai, Israel was finally ready to go to the land and inherit it, to finally fulfill the mitzvot in the promised land as they are meant to be. Once they were ready, they must waste no further time to go ahead and do it. Not progressing to the promised land right away would have been seen as an affront to God, as it would have been seen as pushing off or possibly even rejecting God's gift and mission to us. Regardless of how we look at it, Moshe is telling us that we were not meant to stay away, hidden from the world. Judaism is not passive, but is activistic. Every person in their own way is to be an activist for God. And where better to be than in the land of Israel, where God's eyes and the world's eyes are focused on to fulfill our mission as God's people. We might be a people apart, but somehow, because of who we are, we always remain in the center of things. Shabbat Shalom.